Hello, and welcome to hello, and welcome to my first podcast for this series. This is GKC Resiliency. That's Greater Kansas City Resiliency, and I've hacked the code. I've figured out why so many people record things for YouTube in their cars, and it's because I'm at work, and I decided to start this today. It's for the moment, no script, no nothing, because I'm not professional. Why bother pretending? And I have a phone holder here in the car. Okay, boom. Okay, mystery solved. I was like, why is everybody doing this? Because there's a phone holder right there. This podcast is about focusing on things that can be done to make everybody's life a little bit better. And maybe just better in like really bad situations or something like that. Resiliency is about community. It's not about like, oh, I'm going to stock up and I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. No, it's we're human. We're people who live in a society, who do things. I don't believe with the tools that we have today that we have to like go back to nature or go back to like 19th century living to be really sustainable or anything like that. There are things that we can do that can help limit the impact that we have without really giving up our lifestyles, without giving up our way of life. I mean, if you don't like the way you're living, then there's no reason to continue to do what you're always doing. But most people are fairly happy, except for emergencies, except for things that are out of the ordinary, except for the still concern of, things like autonomy and and concepts like that. And that's what this podcast and this video series is all about. My name is Aaron. I live in Kansas City on the Missouri side, and as somebody who has a background in trucking and logistics and warehouse and has taken like theory and classes and things like that, but also has over a decade of practical experience in that kind of stuff. I understand how the interruptions, like what we saw with COVID, how that impacted everything. Just in time delivery and a global trade. That's good in a lot of ways. It helps keep things stable. It helps keep us networked together so we don't go to war to the drop of a hat because some people with power over here have a beef with people in power over there, whatever, It helps make it so that you have to really think, okay, is this worth severing ties and disrupting everything to make our point? And I think that's a good thing because, it's just a good thing that we don't have war like we used to. We have a different mentality because we're so cross-connected and we stop and think about this stuff, and that happens on a global basis, but it doesn't happen as much on a local scale. And that's kind of what I'm concerned about because I live in a city, right? I live in a city, and most cities are just 2 or 3 days away from starvation setting in because that's all the food that's available, because that's all the supplies are available. If you're living on septic, you're not concerned about other people's poop water coming up into your basement because you can flush a toilet by dumping water in, but that water has to go somewhere, and it's going to go to if the backup generators at the the water poop plant, the water treatment plant aren't functioning, you're going to have a bad situation with sewage really quick. We're so connected in all these different ways and really vulnerable in urban areas, and some of that you can't do anything about the infrastructure. about the physical infrastructure, but you can do something about the social infrastructure. And by social infrastructure, I mean things like we have, the ability to grow food indoors. You can have gardens, but and I want to be clear because although I'm talking about Kansas City, there's there are issues with outdoor with just with gardens, just with vegetable gardens in people's backyards and in a lot of areas because of all of the pollution that took place decades ago. Left layers of lead and sulfur and mercury and all this stuff in the soil just from like soot, just from whether it's low quality coal being burned for you know for blacksmithing or whatever. Stuff builds up in urban environments, and that can get into your fruits and vegetables. And there are places where we see like heavy metal poisoning from people eating fruits and vegetables that they grew outside in the garden. So, and that introduces new issues. That is not just, everybody should have a victory garden so they can grow their own food. That's not always possible. It's not possible for a lot of, what do you do if you live in an apartment, Not going to be able to go out and garden in most places. Certainly there isn't enough land for everyone to do that. So really, to me, when it comes to things like food security and things like that, that's pretty big on my list because there's not a lot of options that are feasible. But there are some options that are feasible. There are projects that can be done. And it's not a matter of everybody being, independent or anything like that, because that's not going to happen in an urban area or even a suburban area. But there are things that we can do to make our communities more resilient. And like I said, this is focused on the greater Kansas City area, the GKC area, which, encompasses parts of 2 states and a bunch of counties and a bunch of different ways that people live and relate to one another. But we're all kind of at each other's mercy. We're all interconnected. We all have our little social webs that we develop with specific people, specific communities that we decide to be a part of. And really strengthening those, finding ways to relate to one another, and taking some of the control away from and I hate to use this but big companies and institutions that seem to exist just to control us for personal profit. Figuring out ways to kind of route around that. To me, that is all interrelated. So this podcast series is going to go to probably some places that you may not be familiar with, or you may not even really be interested in. That's okay, because this is like a potpourri. This is like a buffet. You can just like pick and choose what you want to listen to or watch. And there'll be some good stuff there for a lot of different people. And I hope to have some guests on the show. I'm going to be putting out a video and probably an audio thing every week. Do have a website. It's gkcinfo.com, which is a domain that I've had that I'm kind of moving over to, kind of repurposing, because this is something that's important to me. And I hope that it's important to some other people as well. Maybe I'll just be talking to myself. I don't know. Like I said, I'm certainly not a professional at this, and I'm hoping that I can make it entertaining and informative and helpful to at least a couple people out there. I'm not after huge viewerships or making thousands of money in a month in podcast money or anything like that. I have my own stuff that I'm doing, and this is just kind of an add-on. But if you want more information, if you want to be involved, there's a lot of groups out there that are already active in the community doing things like Cultivate KC. I did a volunteer thing with them through they're dedicated to like urban farming. There's a lot of other groups out there that are there to help build social infrastructure that can help stave off like the worst of a natural disaster. It takes out power for 2 weeks, and all the refrigerated food goes bad or something like that. And I mean, me myself, I have a freeze dryer. I've sold freeze dried food on Etsy before. I shut that down because of some disagreements with them, but now I have a booth that I'm going to start stocking freeze-dried food at. I wasn't going to because I mean that's effort, right? And but if I want to help the community, getting the word out, making some basic supplies available, really is the way to do it. Because if I say, oh, it takes people with a certain amount of money can help harden the community. Well, how does that happen? And so I'm going to be doing that myself. I have a hydroponics kit. I haven't done hydroponics before. I have a hydroponics kit at home. Tiny little thing is not going to make me self-sufficient or anything. I'm hoping to be able to grow spinach and or something like that. It's just a little like 19-inch thing, I think, is what it said. I don't know, but I'll do a video of putting it together and see how that works. But it's the little things that can really add up to everything that you can do for yourself that doesn't require relying on quote unquote the system. Makes it easier for the system to function for the people who do need it. And that's really that's what this is all about. That's what being part of a community, that's really what it's all about. Doing what you can with what you have. Not everybody has everything. Not everybody can do everything. So you just try to do what you can. You start at home and you build out from there. And I hope to encourage at least a couple people out there to join me in this. And I'm about done with this. I've run out of words and I'm about to just start rambling even more. So you have a great day. I'm not going to waste any more of your time on this today. And like I said, I do have a booth at the Painted Tree in Overland Park. It's next to the Sam's Club. And I just got a booth there over the weekend, and I guess I'm going to be stocking that with freeze-dried food in the near future. If you're in the GKC area, it's going to be cheaper than what you can find online. And honestly, everybody has the same harvest-dried food freeze dryer. So, unless you're like Augustin Farms or something. Yeah, check that out. Check out the GKCinfo.com website. It is really bare bones at this point. It's not put together. Really, I have a landing page, and I have a couple other pages that I have to add to the navigation menu because I'm horrible at all this stuff. But it's all coming together. And I just wanted to put this out there and invite you to come along on the journey if you want to. Or you can just sit back and laugh at the fat guy who thinks he can, get all this stuff together. I know. Yeah. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just doing it. You have a great day. Take care.